Now, to begin with our first piece of science, there was a randomized control trial done in the late 60s. If you don't know, randomized control trials are basically considered the gold standard of scientific evidence because they can actually inform on causation. So this was one of the gold standard trials, and it was done in the late 60s on about 500 participants, if I recall correctly, around there. And it was to assess the health impacts of a diet high in saturated fats versus a diet high in unsaturated fats. So basically, to summarize, it would be really a diet high in stuff like butter and tallow versus a diet high in different kinds of vegetable oil. So, for example, canola or safflower. So what did the results say? Well, the results for this trial were actually destined to never be published, and the results may have been a big reason why. It wasn't until 2013 when a researcher who knew about the trial happening back in the day tried to search for the old data that it was found, and it was properly tabulated then, and the results were actually out for the public to see. What the results showed was that yes, the people in the intervention group, the people who were told to eat less saturated fat and eat more unsaturated fat, yes, they did have lower cholesterol, but the caveat there is that they died more. So maybe, worrying about cholesterol isn't the biggest deal. That was the first piece of scientific evidence, and the results there already showed some kind of malicious intent, especially with the fact that it was covered up for so many years and really it was destined to never be published, and it was a fluke that it was. On to the second piece of scientific evidence. It's actually very similar. So there was another randomized control trial done, this time in the US, around about the same time period actually as well, and this was done in nursing homes and mental institutions. And it was done on, I think, multiple thousands of participants. So not just multiple hundreds, but multiple thousands. So one of the most comprehensive studies done on this topic ever. Since the participants of this study were institutionalized, the researchers could have pretty much complete control over the exact things that the participants were eating. So what were the results? Again, just like the last study, they were destined to never be published, and it was just a fluke that they were. But at least in this case, we have a little bit of insight onto why it might have been. So despite the study ending in 1973, it wasn't until 1989, 16 years later, that we were given a sort of redacted edition of the trial, redacted results. And there was also an interview with one of the co-principal investigators, and he said that it wasn't published in full because the results were, quote, just so disappointing. So what were these disappointing results? Again, similar to the previous trial, it was that yes, those in the intervention group, those eating less saturated fat, but more unsaturated fats, yes, they had lower cholesterol levels. But again, they died more. So on the other hand, the group who ate higher levels of saturated fat, they had higher cholesterol levels for sure, but they lived longer and had better health outcomes. So at the end of the day, what's more important?